This is Learn from Others, where we interview a cross-section of successful individuals so you can learn from their experiences, achievements, and even their mistakes. We ask 4 questions that will educate and inspire. Greg Stanley will be your guide as we join our guest on a journey from adolescent daydreaming to success in today's world. Join us on this adventure as we learn from others together.
Welcome to Learn from Others. This is Greg Stanley, and I'm very excited to introduce our special guest, Ann Niehaus. Ann, thank you for taking us on your career journey.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Well, before we find out what you're doing today, let's start at the very beginning. And can you tell us, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I had 2 sort of dreams. I really enjoyed drawing and painting, so I wanted to be an artist, but I also really enjoyed math, so I also thought about being an architect.
Wow, that's interesting because the architect does have the artistic side to it, design side to it, and the math. And I did not know you were that artistic.
Yes, I don't do a lot of it now, but it is something that I really enjoy doing still, but I did a lot of it when I was younger.
What was your first job? Now, that could be babysitting. It could be a first real job where you had a paycheck. What would you consider your first job that had responsibilities tied to them?
I probably wouldn't say babysitting because I did babysit, but the kids I babysat for were really easy and they would go to bed and I would either do homework or fall asleep. So
nice.
That's a pretty simple job. I know it's a great job for students. And then my first job with a real paycheck, I was a waitress at Steak and Shake. So it was an interesting experience there. I did have a funny story that my boyfriend started working there and he was a busser and he started bussing all the tables and he took all the tips off the tables he bussed and gave them to me. So I had to deal with some work ethic issues at a young age.
Well, he was thinking of you, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, Steak and Shake's a great place. Did you have anything favorite when you were a kid working there?
I loved their milkshake.
Oh, yeah.
Any milkshake there, I fell in love with their milkshakes for sure.
So did you have any favorite subjects or hobby in school?
Well, like I said, I really enjoyed art, painting, drawing, all those things I really enjoyed. I enjoyed math just because it came easy to me. That's one of the reasons I enjoyed it. And I was a cheerleader in high school, which I don't know how that happened, but I just fell into that, I guess. And other than that, I'm not athletic at all, so I didn't do any sport, unfortunately.
So how'd you function as a cheerleader? Were you the one being thrown up versus throwing someone?
No, I was probably throwing people up, yeah.
You enjoyed art. You enjoyed math, wanted to become an architect or an artist. So tell us, what do you do today? And if you would, walk us through your journey to get to where you are today, including your education and some of the first positions that led to where you are.
I am a nurse today, and part of the reason I did find out in high school that I really wanted to take care of people. I really wanted to help people in their time of need. And I actually looked into doing art therapy, but my dad would only pay for UC tuition, University of Cincinnati, and the closest art therapy program was up in Bowling Green. So I started off as an art major, and I definitely knew that's not what I wanted to do. And in my first art class, I realized I definitely wasn't as talented as everybody else in the room. So then I decided I would go ahead and do the taking care of people. So I switched my majors into nursing and graduated at University of Cincinnati. Because of the art year, it did take me 5 years to get through. And then I work at a hospital today. I work with children.
Okay. So did you go straight from graduating college to a hospital as a nurse?
I did. I went straight to UC to a hospital working with children, but then I've switched jobs several times because of schedule issues and having babies and, different reasons. So I've been outside of a hospital, and then now I'm back at a hospital and I work with kids again.
Did you want to work with kids, and that was a goal of yours to get to a hospital in which you work with children?
Definitely. I definitely have a heart for taking care of kids. I worked in a newborn ICU, and I love that job, but working 12-hour day-night rotations killed me because on my 12-hour nights I could not sleep, and so I looked for a job that with better hours than that.
So since you've worked with both adults and children, how would you classify the biggest difference between the two from a work perspective, interaction perspective?
Well, when you're working with kids, you're not just working with the child, but you're working with the family members as well. And obviously adults have extended family too and spouses, but it's a different type of relationship than when you're working with the parents of these children. Your concern for your child is completely different than your concern for your parents or even your spouse, because you are their caretaker. They've only been under your care. So they are so involved, and that's important. We want the families to be involved, but it definitely has a different dynamic than working with adults.
Is there different training to take care of kids versus adults?
Now, the nice thing about nursing is there's so many opportunities to work in all different areas of nursing, and once you have your nursing degree, you just find the job where you're interested in, and they do in-depth training with you. When I was in the newborn ICU, I was in training for, it was either 4 or 5 months. And then with each job that I've worked at, then probably at least 8 to 12 weeks of training on each job.
Wow, that's good to know that you get that much extensive training before transitioning like that.
Yes, because every different aspect of nursing is so different. There's different knowledge-based skills, equipment, supplies. It is very flexible, though. That's definitely a huge positive for anybody thinking about going into nursing.
Would you speak on that a little bit? Because I know it can be your time on, your time off. Like, what are some of the typical work schedules?
Well, I did my fair share of 12-hour day-night rotations, which means for 3 weeks I would do work from 7 a to 7 p, and then the next 3 weeks I would work from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then my next schedule, after I switched jobs, I worked 10-hour shifts 4 days a week, and I went in at about 6 and worked till 4:30. But then sometimes I did do evening shifts too, so sometimes I would go in at, I think it was 3 to like 11:30. So there's a variety of different shifts that you just have to find a job that has a shift in hours and schedule and skills that you want to be involved with.
Okay, and what is your typical day like? Like, walk us through yesterday.
I have a great job now on Monday through Friday, so I have no weekends, no holidays, no night shifts, no calls. So
You've earned it, though, right? You've earned it.
I have. I've earned it. I've paid my dues. Yes, I've been a nurse for about 28 years, so definitely paid my dues. So I go into work in between 6 and 6:30, and I hit the ground running. I'm admitting kids, getting ready to have surgery. So patients are already there with their families, ready to be admitted, and I have to make sure that they're healthy enough to have surgery. I have to review all their health history, do an assessment on them, give them any medications that they need prior to surgery. I have to educate them and their families what to expect that day. I'm dealing with a lot of anxiety with the kids and the families, so a lot of it is reassuring them, making sure, knowledge is power, so just giving them information in a way that they can understand it and process it to help them have the best outcome possible.
That sounds like a very challenging but rewarding job.
It is. I love my job. I've got a great job. It is challenging. I think, when I was younger and I worked in the ICU, I dealt with life and death situations that are extremely, extremely stressful. The stressful situations that I work with now are, broken families. We have people that come in with a restraining order against a family member, lots of foster kids, grandparents raising kids. The brokenness in the family is usually what is causing the most friction and stress.
That's amazing. You have to deal with so many different scenarios and situations on a daily basis.
Yes, it's definitely a sign of our society and the state that some families are in for the various reasons.
So that's sounds like one of the more challenging aspects of your job. What's one of the more rewarding aspects of your job?
Oh, helping parents and kids, overcome their stresses and fears. And, kids walk in, they don't want to get a shot. The first thing they think about when they see a doctor or a nurse is that they're going to get a shot. And thankfully, a lot of our kids that are under 10 can go to sleep through a mask, so they don't need a shot. They'll get the IV when they're asleep, and just letting them know that and just answering their questions and helping them work through their anxiety so that by the time it's actually time for them to go back and have surgery, that they're calmer, and seeing them have a good outcome and feeling like they can trust us, that they're trusting, all the people at the hospital with their kids' lives, essentially, and allowing them to get to that level of trust is very rewarding.
That's great. Well, before we move on to our next question, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsors. Do you enjoy your job and find it fulfilling? Or do you spend more time wondering what if instead of what's next? If so, contact Career Spa. Career Spa has extensive programs and curriculum and understands the challenges faced by individuals in transition. They can teach these success practices to be mastered for an effective job search. Answer that what if question by contacting Career Spa and asking their experts, what's next? Contact Career Spa at careerspa.net. Talent acquisition is key to building a successful organization. Talent Connections is a professional services firm that specializes in recruiting, including executive search, contract recruiting, talent acquisition consulting, and recruitment process outsourcing. Whether you are an individual or a Fortune 100 company, Talent Connections can connect you with success. Contact them at talentconnections.net. Welcome back. We just learned what you wanted to be when you grew up, which was something in art or math as an architect, and you've told us what you're doing today. So what would you do differently if you could do it all over again?
I wouldn't do a lot differently because I really love my job. I've loved all the jobs that I've done. It's been very rewarding and it's been very flexible. One thing I would consider doing is when I was younger, if I would have been trained in the OR, I really feel like I would have enjoyed that because I do like the technical aspect of working with the different medical equipment and supplies, but you do have to be trained for a whole year going full time. And when I was raising kids, I only worked part-time, so that was nothing that, it was something that I couldn't pursue later on in my career.
Well, I know that some of our listeners would love to be a nurse or to be in that field. So what advice would you give them? What career path would you say is the best career path to do what you're doing?
I definitely think that if you are going to college for to get a nursing degree, you need to go to college that you know you're going to get into the nursing program. One of the things that breaks my heart is so many girls go to college and after their freshman year they find out that they were not accepted into the nursing program. So whatever you do, make sure that you are there are schools out there that will pre-accept you even before freshman year. Most of them will wait until after freshman year, but make sure you will definitely meet their requirements so that you know you can get a degree in nursing.
So that would be they need X GPA, these required courses. Is that what they would look for as far as the requirements at the end of their freshman year?
It's certain courses and certain grades in those courses, and it's different for every school. That's why it's so important to look at their requirements. We had a friend who was at Ohio State, and their GPA that they expected to get into after freshman year was a 3.4, but because they had so many people applying, the only people who were accepted were people who had a GPA of 3.8.
Wow.
So it was very devastating.
It's a huge change in the requirements there. That's good to know ahead of time for sure. Is there any career advice you received when you were in college that you would like to share?
I really enjoyed, as a new grad, going straight to the newborn ICU. I felt like I was able to manage very stressful situations with codes, ventilators, those type of experiences that if you're a floor nurse and it only happens every once in a while, you really, there's a lot of stress and unknown with that. So I do feel like having ICU experience is extremely helpful in your nursing career.
No, that's great. So when those situations arise, you're prepared for it just because of all your past experience that you received.
Exactly.
Well, as with most journeys, success largely depends on reliable transportation. And since you know I'm a huge car enthusiast, could you please tell us what was your first car?
Well, I have a heartbreaking story about this because when I was going through driver's ed, my sister was driving, and we were going to share a Fiat Spider. And she totaled
nice.
it before I got my driver's license. So I never was able to drive the Fiat Spider.
She totaled it before you got your driver's license?
Yes, I know, it was heartbreaking. My dad then bought a Fiat Wagon. It just looked like a brown old station wagon. So that was my first car.
Wow. And do you know the acronym for Fiat?
No.
Fix it again, Tony, because I kept on breaking down, and Tony's your mechanic. Well, it's not the real acronym. It's the joke acronym.
Yeah, right.
Wow, a brown Fiat wagon. That is a safe first car, but not as exciting as that convertible. Wow, that's too bad.
No.
Well, what's your dream car if you have one?
You know what? I don't have a dream car. I like them reliable and without any maintenance. I want them to last a long time, and I want them reliable.
So you don't want a Fiat?
No.
Well, one great perk to some jobs is a company car. So if I had all the money in the world, I'd like to buy you a cool company car. Initially, this was really tough. I was like, oh my gosh, what would be a good, cool company car for a nurse? And then I just thought of, well, you like to take care of others. And that really helped me figure it out quickly. So are you ready for this?
Okay, lay it on.
I chose for you a 1909 Baker Electric. And this is a car, I'm sure you have no idea what I'm talking about, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Ironically, I did a little cartoon video of this for Valentine's Day because I picked it as the best car for Valentine's Day. And the reason it's also the best car for a nurse is a lot of the same reasons, because it was designed and made for women to begin with. It's all electric. It's quiet. And some of the cool stuff about it is the interior decorations are really cool. Like they have a vanity kit, they have a flower vase, they have curtains. It's a really cool car. And what's really cool about it is, because you care about others so much, the driver actually sits in the back seat, and the front seat where your passenger sits can swivel and turn around, so you can literally talk to them while you're driving.
Oh my goodness!
It's a very different.
Crazy.
It is crazy. So I will send you pictures and a link to my little cartoon video that goes over it in depth. They're very slow because it's 1909. It only top speeds like 35 miles an hour, but it's safe and reliable. So how about that?
Okay, I like it. I can't wait to see the picture.
Well, thank you so much for taking us on your career journey today. What's the best way our listeners can learn more about you or about being a nurse?
That's a good question. I'm not on social media, but I think University of Cincinnati would probably a good resource for their nursing program. Both of my daughters are nurses, and one of them went to Liberty University, and the other one went to Stanford down in Alabama, and their nursing programs are awesome. So there is a lot of resources out there.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Ann.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. Where will our next adventure take us? Subscribe to find out. If you know of someone who has a cool career story or occupation, contact Greg through Instagram at Greg Stanley LFO. That's GregStanley LFO. And we will see you soon as we learn from others together.